Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spock Match with Weekly Comic Book Roundup, and we'll get things started with this week's X-Men books as well as this week's Avengers related title. Starting things off with New Mutants number 15. Where we left off, the classic New Mutants, basically, as well as some of the Generation X members, were working with younger mutants to basically, to help them learn how to use their powers in tandem with one another, or synergistically. However, a handful of these younger mutants had discovered another teacher, Amal Farouk, better known as the Shadow King. Also, during at Ten of Swords, longtime member of the New Mutants, Doug Cypher Ramsey, got married to Bay the Blood Moon of Araco. Yes, that will be important for this. So, the issue begins at the Academos habitat and what's left of a habitat known as the Fort. Well, what's left of it is apparently burning. But Magic shows up, asks what happened, and some of the students they try to one of the students claims that they wanted the fort, but those living there didn't want to didn't want to leave. But one of the other students then says that Fauna, the student in question, is confused. There was an accident, they weren't paying attention to the campfire. But Magic talks to Fauna some more, and Fauna explains, no, it really was someone trying to take the fort. One of the students claims that what happened wasn't against any of the laws, but Magic states that it does break a law, as it's a massive disrespect to the land, and everything is built from Krakoa. Next, however, there are three things that make this important. First off is the fact that it is disrespectful to the second law, respect the land. And even if it didn't break the law, terrorizing each other is not what they do here. The third one is that Magic hates bullies, and so it's going to be fun tracking the bully down. Elsewhere, Cosmar and Anole are sparring. Sparring with them is No Girl. Also involved is No Girl and Rainboy. While Shadow King watches. And apparently Shadow King has convinced Cosmar to enter the Crucible. And Cosmar asks if Shadow King will watch her fight. At the Boneyard, Gabby Scout, formerly Honey Badger, shows up while her brother Dakin is at least spending time with Aurora. And apparently she wanted to spend time with him, and Dakin kind of says, they can spend time, just not right there, right then. And he offers to play Claws Out with her at the big party at the Lagoon. And so Scout leaves, and it's kind of, she's a little bummed because, no matter what, no matter who it is, it's always later. And she mentions that Laura, her sister, also known as X-23 and as well as Wolverine, would have let her stay. In the area between the Academic Habitat and the Wild Hunt, Warpath is working with some of the students. Scout offers to help the students with working as a group, explaining that she knows these students in particular, and she was created to be part of an elite assassin group, so she knows how to work well with others. Warpath points out that Gabby was indoctrinated by humans to serve their purposes, and so she needs to learn to think beyond what they allowed her to know about herself. She's not happy with this, but we see some spatial awareness training, a synergy between Rainbow and Shark Girl. Basically, Rainbow creates a water cyclone, which Shark Girl then utilizes. Some agility training, some synergy between Tempest and Armor, basically fire armor. There's some endurance training. Scout and Sprite synergy is supposed to be a fastball special, but a sort of version of the fastball special. While Cosmar and Ole's synergy is Nightmare Evolution mode. Gabby tries talking to some of the mutants in the training group, and apparently, but she explains, that she kind of knew them in the Age of X-Men. But they all basically say, no, it's not the case because we died on Genosha. Some of the others are kind of, basically say, hey, look, we'll come around. Just, it takes a while to warm up to others. There's also a text portion, a response to resurrection request put in by Wolfsbane. So, for those unaware, Wolfsbane had an Asgardian wolf child who was also a mutant, and said Wolfchild was killed. So she has made a request to have her child resurrected. Elixir, however, has informed her that her son's not even in the queue. But Rain explains to Danny what's happened. We also get to, we see some time from when she was pregnant, Hela's machinations with Tyr, as well as Guido, strong guy, killing Tyr. And yeah, it's particularly hard on Rain, obviously, but Danny is being comforting, trying to help her. And Karma arrives and reminds Danny that they got the party and that Danny has to go because she did volunteer to give a speech, which Danny is trying ever so hard to get out of, but no. There's also some entries from Amal Farouk's journal from when he was a child. At the party, seemingly everyone's there. And hell, even Cannonball and Sunspot showed up from Chandelar to celebrate Doug's wedding and meet Doug's wife. Magic gives Doug some noogies, but then realizes that maybe it was rude to just, step right in and give Doug noogies. Explaining that, now Doug is base to Noogie. But Magic does also welcome Beta to the family. Scouts are looking for Dakin. She runs into Quentin and one of the Cuckoos. She finds him, but he's trying to get to her. But yeah, she keeps others getting in the way. Sunspot gave a speech, which Magic interrupted. It suggested they all dance. Warlock doesn't entirely understand the idea, but especially dancing to show up your friends. But yeah, Danny goes to talk to Rain, who has shown up, and apparently Danny's speech was quite nice. And Danny offers to leave if Rain would like to. Anyway, elsewhere in the lagoon, Rainbow is trying to pump up Cosmar. And Cosmar goes to approach Danny, calling her Miss Mirage initially, though Danny insists on being called, Danny. Cosmar, then asks, basically says that because of what happened to her, because of what happened to her when her powers manifested, the fact that it did kind of warp her body, she was planning to go. And while she can undo what she's done to the world, she can't undo what she's done to her body. But she wanted to have, she wanted the honor, she wanted Danny to do her the honor of being her partner in the Crucible. Now, for those unaware, the Crucible, it's popped up a few times, most recently in the most recent issue of Marauders, but generally speaking, it's for the victims of M-Day, those who Scarlet Witch, those who had not yet, whose powers had not yet returned after Scarlet Witch simply said no more mutants. But the idea is they die to be resurrected with their powers. But Danny declines the offer because she's proud of Cosmar, but she can't do it. Explaining the Crucibles to heal mutants who have been robbed of their gifts. Explaining, Cosmar is perfect as she is. But that's not what Cosmar wanted to hear, and she breaks down crying and runs out. Danny tries to talk to her, but Enola tells her to, basically, hey, you've done enough on that one. Scout, Rainbow, and No Girl go after her, but they're kind of keeping their distance because Cosmar does have Cosmar's powers aren't always cooperative when she's emotional. There's some dancing. Shadow King kind of absently toasts the happy couple, and that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to Excalibur number 17. Where we left off, during Ten of Swords, Captain Britain, Betsy Braddock, was killed. However, the Captain Britain Corps was also resurrected, and all the versions of Captain Britain from the Captain Britain Corps were no longer versions of Brian Braddock, but rather versions of Elizabeth Braddock. Well, there was one thing that Excalibur was looking for throughout the Captain Britain Corps, and they were coming up empty-handed. Their Betsy. Meanwhile, their Betsy awoke on another Earth, alongside Warren Worthington, Warren Worthington III to be precise, but Angel. And turns out she's the Queen of England. In London, Ruben Brosseau of Coven Aqaba is bothering Pete Wisdom, wanting to know where Captain Britain is. By and large, Pete is blowing him off. Brosseau is being very dog whistly about mutants in general. Also shows him the pictures of the members of Excalibur done up as Captain Britain, but Pete's basically just like, yeah, I'll look into it, whatever. So apparently there's a letter from Queen Betsy to any other Captain Britain in case of omniversal trouble. Basically, kind of, if you and me end up swapping, if you end up in my reality, here's what needs to happen. At least is explained. Yes, she is. She has at least told Warren that she's not his Betsy. And he figured this, but it said she's probably, her PR people said that she's not well, and so at the moment she's not well. So meanwhile, but Warren has made arrangements for someone to help her get back to her home reality. Warren's ex-wife, Quanon. Elsewhere, the Excalibur is moving into the lighthouse. If for no other reason than to lay a claim to it. When they run into Pete Wisdom, Richter somewhat explains that they're at least staying there momentarily for a while in the event that Betsy returns. That's most likely where she'd go. So they make their way to Krakoa. However, in the parallel reality where Betsy is, the lighthouse isn't there anymore. Instead, it's the King James III Memorial Intelligence Center, codenamed the Lighthouse. Back at the lighthouse on Earth 616, Mariana Stern of Coven Aqaba and some of the acolytes of Coven Aqaba are going to are trying to take the lighthouse for themselves. They of course figure that something that mutant kind is, or worse, Jamie Braddock has done something untowards to Brian Braddock, which is why, since Elizabeth Braddock has seemingly fallen, Brian hasn't shown up to basically so he can be renamed Captain Britain. Excalibur fights off Coven, while Betsy and Quanon make their way through the intelligence center to the point basically the point where the intelligence center links to Otherworld. Quanon pushes Betsy through. And as she arrives on Earth, she sends out a psychic cry for help at the lighthouse, which Excalibur, as well as the members of Konakaba, here. And Excalibur finds Betsy and promptly tell Konakaba exactly what, to basically get out of Dodge. And that is where the issue ends. Brings us to our next title, Wolverine number 9. Where we left off, Wolverine was on the trail of Maverick, and apparently Sage and Beast had heard about an upcoming mutant-related auction. So it was being held in Lowtown. So everything was set up: a dummy account, an invitation for Logan, so on and so forth. And he arrives as Patch. The issue begins years ago. Logan and Maverick watching as Sabretooth indulges himself after a mission. However, rather than let Sabretooth slowly kill the last survivor, Maverick puts the last survivor out of their misery, out of their future misery. There's an excerpt from the Secret History of Wolverine about Wolverine and Maverick, explaining that on a Team X mission, Wolverine stole a copy of the Book of Five, written by Miyamoto Musashi. He recognized it but didn't know why, and kept it in his bunk. Doesn't know how many times he read it, but he read it a lot. Long after he jotted down notes in the margins. Notes about people he had killed, mainly so he wouldn't forget. But apparently Wolverine and Maverick created a mnemonic device borrowed for the book. Today is the victory over yourself of yesterday. The idea being that it would bring them back, anchor them to the present, and help them recognize the loss of 1,000 yesterdays. So, in Madripoor, Patch shows up. He's, everything's explained, but his Krakow enlisting device is discovered and pulled out. Claims it's just a bit of earwax, though. Among the present parties, we've got the Kingpin, of course, some members of the Cult of X, possibly some Hydra members, the Mercenary Rapido, the Hellfire Kids. Also, look, from later in the issue, it does kind of appear that Dolores from the X-Desk is also present. But some of the various items are listed off. The Cyanide Tooth of Black Widow, a prison painting by Jigsaw, a Goblin Glider, the cowl, Cap's cowl that was frozen with him after World War II, the gloves of Magnetic Man, the gravestone of Spider-Man, and the severed hand of Wolverine. Now, a quick aside about this. In the aftermath of Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars event, Old Man Logan ended up on Earth 616. He eventually would join the X-Men, and on either an X-Men mission or one of his own solo adventures, his right hand was cut off from about mid-forearm onward, taking the adamantium with it. The bone claws that all grew back, but not with the adamantium. So, this is likely the severed hand of Old Man Logan. Well, upon seeing it, Wolverine, even with the fact he has his memory back, he still doesn't remember everything. But he sees the severed hands, crushes the glass he's holding. Dolores from the X-Tex recognizes him. Kingpin gives him a handkerchief with which to wipe the blood off his hand, which he promptly drops, though of course it is picked up, though. Also up for sale is the mutant known as Maverick. To explain that Maverick is has been mind wiped, a deep clean. That way you're provided with a clean slate. Prize is the perfect weapon. A demonstration is given to everyone. It's also explained that since Maverick is a mutant, he unlocks Krakoa. However, someone appears and whispers something in the auctioneer's ear. That something being that Wolverine is present, so yeah, Wolverine is probably taken hostage. The cult of X members promptly drop to their knees, not realizing they're in the presence of other gods, but the auctioneer takes the gloves of the Magnetic Man and, basically takes Wolverine. We get another flashback to him and Maverick together. But, and when they set their mnemonic device. And so Wolverine attempts to use the mnemonic device to get on Maverick. And eventually it works. And the issue ends with Maverick grabbing the auctioneer, putting a gun to his head, and Wolverine being quite pleased with the fact that Maverick's back, at least somewhat. There's also a bit, I think it was an opinion entry from Wolverine about Maverick. Maverick is the best kind of bastard. The best kind of bastard is worth having around, but only there's beers to be drank or bullets to be dodged. You can't trust him with your wife, but you can trust him with your life, kind of deal. As long as you're playing for the same team, that is. As long as you're dodging the same bullets. Like every pretty boy, he only cares about one person, and that's numero uno. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to our next book for the week. X-Men number 17. So, what we left off in various stories, the galactic economy has collapsed due to the Kree and Skrull empires allying with themselves into one government. This has thrown the galaxy into chaos. The niece, I want to say the niece or daughter, the daughter of Zandra Naramani, if I remember correctly, is the daughter of Lilandra, the late Majestrix of the Shi'ar Imperium, has been placed on the Shi'ar throne as regent, with or as empress, with her aunt Deathbird acting as regent. Now, Sunspot led the New Mutants basically to rescuing Deathbird from the Shi'ar prison she was in before this occurred. But the galactic economic collapse is not something that the Shi'ar are immune to. So the issue begins with a rundown of what I just explained. though not adding that it's because the Kree and the Skrull allied with one another. But Deathbird has sent a message to the X-Men, or is sending a message to the X-Men, explaining that her paramour has promised that the X-Men not only could save Zandra, but that Deathbird could trust her discretion. Deathbird paramour being, well, Sunspot. Within an hour, Cyclops, Storm, and Jean Grey show up on Chandelar. Cyclops and Jean wearing older costumes. The three of them join Smasher on their way to the palace, while Smasher basically gives the X-Men a rundown of what's happened. Everyone that who would have been working that section of who would have been in that area has been rounded up, and Jean uses her telepathy to try and suss out who was responsible. One of the servants is found to not actually be a Shi'ar, but rather a Stygian in disguise. Turns out the Stygian resistance movement has kidnapped Zandra, and basically, because of the economic collapse, the Stygian colonies which are ruled by the Shi'ar Imperium, aren't going through the best time. We'll just put it that way. Kind of a scraps were seen as a feast type of thing. But the leader of the resistance, of the Stygian resistance, claims that he slaughtered the puppet Shi'ar every member of the puppet Shi'ar government of his planet, including his own brother. But he identifies himself as being Zandra simply calls him a monster, and he retorts that he's what the universe made him. He's what the Shi'ar made him. However, Smasher, Jean, Scott, and Storm show up. Smasher activates the device, which will hopefully get them reinforcements if necessary. Before can kill Zandra, the X-Men do show up, and the day is saved. Smasher rescues Zandra while Storm fights But, yeah. Apparently they have a plan. There's a backup plan. Also, it is explained that apparently there's a fire sale going on, and Sunspot's buying everything. Pennies on the dollar. But Smasher simply tells Cannonball that this is her telling him to do the thing, which he says he knows what she's talking about, so he activates a button, and suddenly a legion of Smashers show up to take down to stop Said is taken down non-lethally. Zandra is put back on the throne. Cyclops has a bit of a headache after getting hit in the head with Earth's hammer. And Zandra has learned something new about ruling. In winter, an iron hand is never a good idea. With Deathward adding that weaknesses must not be seen as an opportunity. And she has volunteered that the recent good fortune of Sunspot be used to the betterment of the Stygian people. Sunspot claims to not be happy about that, but he's also happy for everyone, allegedly. Zandra explains to Storm that the cleric, has been turned into the ambassador of the Stygian people to the Shi'ar Imperium. And she also states that Zandra also states that she is in Storm's debt, and that in the coming days, should Storm need anything of Zandra, Storm is free to collect at any time. We then get an update on the upcoming X-Men election. Was unaware. Last issue, Cyclops and Jean explained their desire to start a new X-Men team, but rather than simply going through and saying, let's put Wolverine and who else? Randomly pick 6 people from the island. Instead, they're going to have the people of Krakoa vote. And we X-Men fans also get the opportunity to vote on one member of the team. Of those 10 possibilities, our choices are Banshee, Polaris, Forge, Boom Boom, Tempo, Cannonball, Sunspot, Strong Guy, Marrow, and Armor. Of course, the obvious choice is Tempo, but hey, I won't tell anyone who wants to vote how to vote. Or I'll tell you where to go though. Marvel.com/X-Men vote. It's a simple enough process. Like I said, I voted for Tempo last night, shortly after it opened up. That's it for X-Men number 17, which brings us to the final book of this video, Captain Marvel number 25. Now, a bit of a surprise. Usually, the 25th issue is any time a comic hits a 25th issue, it's usually kind of a larger issue. You get, a big deal is made. This is actually the standard size issue. Now, it should be noted that within the last year we did have Captain Marvel's 150th legacy issue. So, and that was only 9 issues ago. That was about a year ago, to be fair. Anywho, where we left off in the New World, in the future of Captain Marvel: The End, Captain Marvel and a handful of the survivors in the future have encountered Ove, and Ove is revealed to be the son of Namor and the Enchantress. And he has a lot of his father's late father's good qualities. He's also pretty much got all the really crappy qualities of his mother. So, yeah. And Carol and her group are arrested, apparently getting them there with a big ruse. Anyways, Bridget, the daughter of Thor, is found by the daughter of James Rhodes, War Machine, who has invisibility and intangibility powers, and Bridget convinces her to help phase her out of her shackles, but it takes a lot out of Rhodes. So, anyway, Bridget wraps her arms and fists in chains and suggests that Rhodes go and do what she can to free everyone else. Elsewhere, Ove and his mother are preparing to sacrifice Captain Marvel so that Ove can go back to the present and take over the world. However, Enchantress proves she's not the worst. Close. She is close to be the worst, but not the worst. So, you know. But it's explained that, you know, she really didn't think much of Namor aside from him being a pretty face. But with the end of the world happening while she was trapped on Midgard, well, Namor seemed very appealing. So, the two of them came together. And she even states, you know, she's pretty sure they never actually loved each other. They convinced themselves they did. But then they had Ove. And they actually did become closer. And further apart at the same time. Because now they could no longer pretend that they were just living out some romantic fantasy. This is now something real with real problems. And she explains that Ove is truly the best of both of them and the worst at the same time. Turns out it was not Atlantean revolutionaries who killed Namor, but rather Ove himself. Carol states that Ove told her that Namor was killed by revolutionaries of some kind. Enchantress explains that, you know, that's what Ove says, and sometimes she thinks he actually believes it. Maybe he even needs to believe it. So they escaped into the night, and they did what they could to find a new life for themselves. But Ove returns with magic and some of the demons of Limbo. And, well, it turns out that before she got exhausted, Rhodes is only able to affect the escape, help Emma Frost and Jerry Drew escape before passing out. So it's her and Bridget versus Enchantress, Ove, and Limbo. A bunch of demons from Limbo. Bridget knocks out Enchantress with her chains. Emma grabs Ove and states that his father would be ashamed of him. As he goes to attack Emma, Carol starts to free herself, hits him a few blasts, then, but then Luke Cage attacks her, still under the spell, under the thrall of Enchantress, and Emma Frost is able to get into his head and basically clear her influence. And Cage is pissed and goes after Ove. Bridget calls forth Mjolnir, and it finally does arrive, and she's being attacked by the demons from Limbo. And so now she's Thor, and she hits Carol with a blast of Asgardian lightning, which activates her binary abilities. And that is where the issue ends. That's it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal will be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying live long and rock hard.